Good morning to everyone in Sydney. Happy Friday. Time to put your feet up on Friday and think about what property investing can do for you. I'm here at VaynerMedia, back again for a second time. Absolutely loving it. Got the pleasure of being here with Nick today to get his insights about New York property, about his life, his mission, all his purpose and everything. Nick, why don't you tell everyone a little bit about yourself and what's going on?
Yeah. So I'm a kid from the Jersey Shore who now works in New York City for a guy named Gary Vaynerchuk. And I lead new business development, but I'm a sucker for a good beach, some sand to dig my toes into, and I've been renting in New York City for about 5 years now. And I've bopped around in 2 or 3 different places, but all within Manhattan proper. What's super interesting about the New York market right now is it's soft, right? And it goes through seasonalities, right? So the winter months, people don't want to move, it's too cold. New York is a miserable place in the winter, it's slushy, it's snowy, sub-zero temperatures, right? So the best time to move in New York City is in the winter. But holistically, I think the market's been really soft. I rented a place, in March we signed our lease, which is probably the end of that seasonality window, right? Because then it starts to get nice, it's 90 degrees in New York City today. And the place that we rented is being rented for the same price it is today as it was 8 years ago.
Oh, wow.
So no rise in that rent at all, but in 2 or 3 years prior, it was actually up a few $100s. We were able to get it down to the same price it was 8 years ago. Forever, right? Like New York, I think will continue to be a place that's desirable. And we're seeing, there's always these conflicting reports that are like, millennials are moving back to the suburbs or they're only living in cities. And, it's difficult to say. I've spent a little bit of time in both the suburbs, middle America, on the coast. And I think that, property values in New York City will always be high comparatively, right? Will always be high. I don't think that it's as extreme in terms of the availability of real estate as some people play it out to be. That said, because there's always somebody behind me, right, that's going to want the same place. If I didn't pull the trigger on the place that I'm in now, 2 weeks later and somebody else would have, right? Yeah. So there's always somebody there to refill it. What I do think, though, is that there is a lot of real estate on the market, so I think now is a better time than ever to negotiate. First floor is a retail space. Second floor, residential. Third floor is actually the people that own the building.
Okay.
Fourth floor, us. Fifth floor, family. 3 out of the 5 tenants have been there for over 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So and some of them were even around during the financial crisis and 9/11. Really, as that whole area of Lower Manhattan has gone through a lot of transition and a big facelift over time. So I think that there are people that are negotiating upwards, but there are people that are looking to build a nest somewhere. And that in the city isn't really common. You're either, later on in life and you're like, this is where I'm going to be forever, right? But if you're, building a family and having kids, you might not be looking for a place in New York City as a 5 or a 10-year investment. Maybe to buy and then rent, but I don't think for your own home. I don't think that's... So every year they have a housing lottery, and if you make on salary, on paper, a certain amount and you're within a certain age, I believe it is, you can apply for rent-stabilized housing. And some of the places in New York City that are rent-stabilized are sweet, right? So it's almost like some people are trying to make less money so that they can get these nicer properties. But it's, I think it's... I watched a keynote speech by the governor of New York at one point, and I think it is important to have rent stabilized in specific areas because it really does help the fabric of the community. It really, really does. We've got buildings in our neighborhood that are rent stabilized, and it does contribute to the fabric of the community. I think it's a good thing ultimately. You can get two-day free shipping to your apartment. So you're like, I can wait 2 days for toothpaste, or I can wait 2 days for 18 rolls of paper towels, and to hold that on a shelf in New York City with the cost of real estate is just too much. So. Yeah,
when I was in Dallas, though, it's actually last year.
Yeah.
Someone said I can order a box of paper clips and it'll come in 2 hours.
Yeah,
that's incredible.
Yeah,
and that's where I guess you see that taking over the world. Now, how does that go back and affect the retail commercial space that's going on?
Yeah, so I don't need to walk outside and walk to the bodega to get the things that I used to need as much, right? So we're
For those of that in Australia, bodega.
like a convenience store.
Right.
Yep. So in New York City specifically, retail space, like it's kind of crazy. You walk around, you see how much empty first floor retail space there is in New York City.
Okay.
Like
ground floor, yeah,
ground
street floor,
Yes.
street level, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
There's just this massive influx of available retail space, and those are very willing to go month to month at this stage.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can get a lot of good retail space in New York City, month to month. We rented. It was essentially I've utilized this a service called Breather, which is meeting rooms on demand.
Oh.
So
okay.
people are buying, old spaces in New York City, not retail spaces, but even apartments, right? And then making fully functional meeting rooms out of them, where they place a meeting table and a TV and a whiteboard, and all of a sudden you can rent that room out for $20, $30, $50, $100 an hour.
That probably goes along with the whole thing about human connection, right? And, obviously a lot of people do the Skype meetings and the Zoom meetings and so forth, but there's always that need to get into having that connection, having that one-on-one, face-to-face.
Yep.
You get that bit more vibe and tone in terms of, is that what you're seeing, I guess, through your work? And,
Yep.
Having people come to the office. Obviously, I did the 4Ds.
Yep.
We can just watch Gary every day on his podcasts and videos and so forth, but coming here is a little bit different.
Yeah, there's so many things that could be lost in translation sometimes, I think, over email or phone. And I think maybe a lot of it is just actual intent, right? Like the way in which we're delivering a message or articulating ourselves, and that maybe not getting that full visual sometimes leaves things to be desired. So I think that's important for sure. That said, efficiency and speed for us here are paramount, right? So it's how can we be the most efficient and fast, and course correct if we need to, right? Don't be afraid to make mistakes. So
We're going to get some light on this.
ooh, sun's shifting around here.
Yeah.
There you go. You're back.
Okay, that's a bit.
Cool. Even further background context, right? I'm 27 years old, and I'm probably reaching that life stage where you're thinking about longer term investments. And I've made investments, and property is definitely that one where I'm like, there's no smarter investment than property. Like, how have I not done this yet? Right?
Well, you know the line, don't you?
What is that?
90% of millionaires make their money through property.
Yeah. So I didn't know the line,
Except Gary,
but like I'm not
maybe.
surprised, right? Yeah, except for Gary, right?
Unless he owns like this space, like then that's property, right? That's
Yeah, one of our investors owns this space,
Okay.
so I think we pay
Right.
an okay rate for rent. But yeah, so I mean, for me, I think it's like, what is that next thing for me? And it's probably property, right? But understanding the entire thing and all that goes into it has been a little bit of like, how do I get there? How do I become smart enough? With somebody who's so heads down in the day-to-day of their job, their side hustles, and what else I have going on, it's easy for me to start a Coinbase account and buy Bitcoin on demand, right?
That's right.
It's not as easy.
It's easy.
Right?
Yeah, and it's
easy.
small, and then obviously you think about a Bitcoin purchase,
Yep.
like you said just now, and you might put $1,000, $2,000,
Yep.
$10,000 in it. But when you're looking for a home,
Yes.
or a house, or a unit, or an apartment, you're looking at $200,000, $400,000, $1 million. So
Yes. At a personal level, and I don't know if this resonates with anybody, but there's massive, I think, in terms of my generation, commitment issues, right?
Yep.
I live in New York City today. I get everything on demand,
Yeah.
right? Like I can swipe or flip or get to where I need to be at the tip of a hat, right? Like I don't, I call a car and I can go from point A to point B. I want food, I can order it on Seamless. I want to do this. So there's a bit of a commitment issue, I think, with generationally right now. And making the decision ultimately to purchase property and figure out where you're going to, either for your investment purposes or what have you. It takes a level of consideration that I'm not trained to think through yet, right? Like that immediate gratification of being able to make an investment or dedicate my time towards something is too instant to be able to think. For me to have thought through the actual process of buying an investment property or, a home.
A lot of people that you know around your age are living from paycheck to paycheck.
Massively. Yeah.
So no savings.
None. Zero. No, zero.
It's terrible.
It's so bad. It's terrible. And any money that I do, I think and I hate to speak on behalf of like all Americans in between this age range, but our motives are driven by experiences a lot of times. So I've been lucky enough to travel a fair amount, and I've definitely, and it's absolutely on the, I talked about like these finding that sense of purpose and passion. And for me, it massively is creating an ecosystem through a piece of property that people can feel the way that I felt growing up. But yeah, I put all of my money back into things that have minimal return, like financially. I put all of my money back into relationships and experiences and giving to people with the expectation of zero, but knowing full well that it'll come full circle. And go to and say, hey, I'm thinking about an investment property somewhere. I need your 2 cents. Because I think I'd be crippled, but the process would take me too long, and I'd talk myself out of it.
Exactly.
If I didn't have that resource.
And then most of the people I'm dealing with right now that are basically time poor, they're working, 10, 12, maybe more hours a day, and they're not in a situation where they can actually spend time going out for open inspections or really knowing what they're doing. I know with my first property, I made the mistake of just buying something where I had no idea, and I lost as a result of that, or it took me a long time to actually gain back that money and then actually make a profit on that. So I guess my message for anyone or people like you is go with that trusted person that has actually got the experience to do it. You're not coming to me for advice on digital marketing or anything. We're going to yourself and to Gary to get that. Is there any quick advice that you would like to give him, being in this digital marketing media company of VaynerMedia? I think it's so easy for me, and it's so easy to identify. Like even what we're doing right now, right? There's 3 whole people watching, right? And it's just amazing that 3. There we go. So it just like blows me away that we can have this conversation, which would have just been 2 people, and now 4 more people can join. And I think we're it depends where you're from and kind of what the way you think about all this, but some people are way too wrapped up in the numbers. If there's not 100 people or 1,000 people or 100,000 people watching my message, does it resonate as much, or does it carry as much weight? And for me, that just like couldn't be more of a fallacy, right? The fact that 4 people, 3 people have spent any time at all watching this and have engaged with in some capacity is just incredible. So for me, it's all relationship based, and I think somebody said it here. It was something givers gain, relationship marketing at its best.
That's it, right? Like it's so easy for me to be able to stay top of mind for potential clients, friends, family, colleagues, right?
So attention. Massive attention.
It's crazy that I can utilize Instagram stories and Instagram and stay top of mind for somebody I haven't talked to in 5 years. So enough so that when their friend applied for a job somewhere reaches out to me, and all of a sudden my network grows by 1.
It was really interesting the other day when we were like trading posts, and you were saying about running and I was saying about running, and just having that ability to connect with like-minded people very quickly. The day and age of social media, and I guess that's what the attention's all about.
I used 5 or 6 different apps during like my real estate like search. Between Zumper and StreetEasy and all these apps, they're all listed in different places, and for me it was cross-checking each one of those things and then figuring out where the inconsistencies were, and then being able to go back and look at something. So even just in the way in which we're going and looking for properties these days, like a self-awareness thing. It's like I know what I'm good at, and I think for so many people, they're like, I need to be good at a tangible thing. I need to be a great runner or a photographer and for me, I always thought communicating was that thing that wasn't tangible, right? So for me, it's I'm proud that I can recognize now that my ability to communicate with people effectively is a skill set that's my own, and it's something
awesome.
that I've honed and developed over time. So I would implore people to, double down on the thing that they're actually good at,
Yeah.
whether or not you think it's something that's worthwhile or